So, welcome to another episode of The Reluctant Leader. I am your host, Gajinder Bogle, aka The Reluctant Leader. And today's guest is Rebecca Farley, who is an amazing designer. And I'm so happy to be having this conversation with you today, Rebecca. And would you mind introducing yourself to everybody that is watching today?
Sure, yeah. So I'm really excited for this conversation today. I am Rebecca. I have a branding agency called Sugar Branded, which I've had for about 6 years now. We work mainly with female entrepreneurs. A lot of my clients are within the beauty industry, but I also work with different industries like wellness businesses, home fragrance businesses, coaches, a whole range of different people that I work with and help with their branding and design services, packaging design. So yeah, essentially that is what I do and who I am in brief.
Love it. And you're responsible for my branding as well. So, what you
I am,
see
yeah.
behind me, Rebecca is actually responsible for my branding too, which I absolutely love. And we are going to talk a lot about your business. But before we do, Rebecca, I am a reluctant leader. So, I never, ever in my wildest dreams thought I would ever be running my business. And if anything, I always was scared of business because of the experiences I've had with business owners in the past.
Mhm.
Have you always dreamt of being a business owner?
Yeah, so I guess that's a complicated question because I would say that I've had a lifelong entrepreneurial spirit. So since I
Oh,
was a child, when I used to play when I was like, as long as I can remember, the games I'd make up would be making up pretend businesses, making like pretend leaflets for them.
oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, ever since I was literally so small. And I think I said this to you before, but when I was like a child, if my friends used to come and play, I would start like managing them, and we'd have like systems that you just like get in line with.
Just
So
taking Bossy on another level, right?
yeah, and I don't know how fun it was for them, but that's what I liked to do for fun. But at the time, I didn't realize that that was kind of like running a business and probably leading me to
Yes.
where I am now. I think when I was younger, so I'm 30 now, so it's not like I'm old, but I feel like it's only in the last maybe like, I don't know, like less than a decade where it's become more common for people to have either a side hustle or be self-employed or start a business, because with the rise in technology, it's become so much easier. We've had so many options to do
Mm.
that and connect. When I was in education, so school to sixth form to university, it wasn't as common to for people to do that. It was
Yes.
more kind of like in that period of time where you had an interest, you'd study it, get qualified, and then hopefully get a job in like a big corporation. And that was kind of like my goal at the time. So I wouldn't say it was until I had a bit of experience in my corporate career. So I was in employer branding, working with brands like Jaguar Land Rover and Virgin Media, and working in a corporate setting for them. After a few years of that, I kind of realized that this 9 to 5 working for someone else wasn't for me. It was almost like an
Mm.
awakening I had, that I realized that my strengths that I bring to the table weren't necessarily being played to in this like 9 to 5 setup. So I would say my drive for actually starting a business only kind of came about relatively recently. Like it hasn't been a lifelong goal of mine, but definitely a lifelong passion and interest, if that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, and do you know what? It's really interesting because you're 30, I'm
Mhm.
not. I could probably say we're probably two different generations if we actually look at it. We're two different generations. So I've got 12 years more experience than you. And I really want to talk about this generational shift because
Mm,
100% I am of the generation that you just worked really hard, got yourself a job, got into this final salary pension scheme, and
mhm.
that would be your life forever. But obviously you're a new generation. So how has that thought process been different for you then compared to me who was in the world, a few years before you?
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting because although obviously I would say we're the same generation, but I guess in
I
terms
know we look it and I might act it, but reality is.
I guess in terms of like technology and access to social media and things like that, we are like in different eras. Whereas like, so when I was at school, in secondary school, we were only just starting to get mobile phones, and then we had like a few social media sites, but that online social media and like connection was not a thing.
Yeah.
And I think that for people in my age group, it's not only that it's more of a possibility, but it also becoming more of a necessity to have something on the side to your normal job. So even people that I know that are very much invested in their careers and they love their career, they are also looking at having a side hustle or eventually maybe venturing out of their 9 to 5, especially women who are mums. And I think that sort of dynamic, the expectations that we have when we become a mum, has changed as well, where a lot of households can't afford to only have one income. And so as women, we need to have more flexible working, and businesses are like an amazing opportunity to do that.
It's so true. And that is probably true for me because my kids came first and then my business came after. But for you, it's very different because your business came first and then your children came after. So
Yeah.
what was that pivotal moment for you to want to then start your own business?
Yeah. So I actually started sugar branded while I was 8 months pregnant with my eldest son.
Okay.
I literally imagine me there, like with a massive bump, and I had my laptop resting on my bump, like starting this business that I didn't know was going to kind of grow and grow and grow for like the next 6 years. And but I had actually launched a hair product line before I was pregnant at all. So I decided to leave my corporate job before I became a mum. So the kind of transition was not necessarily when I became a mum, but my drive to grow my business definitely increased when I became a mum, because I kind of realized that I wasn't going to be able to go back into working how I was working in my 9 to 5 now that I am a mum. So it's sort of like that commitment to my business definitely showed up once I became a parent and saw the benefits of that flexible working. And not only that, but also I think when you become a parent, you don't have the capacity. Well, for me anyway, it was more important for me to prioritize spending my time on things that I thought were valuable, that kind of filled me up, because you don't have as much time. You don't have a whole weekend to recover. You don't have evenings free. So I didn't want to spend all day working in a job that was draining me, that wasn't filling up my cup, so that I can't give back to my kids. So these are some of the thoughts that kind of go through my mind when I'm fully in on my business, kind of reflecting on it as becoming a mum, I guess.
And I love that perspective. I absolutely love that perspective, because I do believe I was like that. When I became a mum, I'd be in a job that I really was, it was starting to grate on me. And I'd end up going home depleted of all my energy. And that's what my kids would get. They would get a mother depleted of all her energy. Whereas now what they get is a mother completely full of life. And they're so happy and I'm so happy. So I really love that perspective, as, you're actually doing something that you love doing, whether that's a business or a job. It's just something that you love doing.
Yeah. I think the other thing is that when you, I don't know about you, but well, for me, I'm really one of the first business owners in my family. Everyone else has sort of gone the more traditional route. My dad was in the RAF, so he literally left school at 16 and has worked his way up in the RAF and the military since then. I'm the first one to really have a full income as a business owner. So for me to be able to support my kids, if that's something that they want to do, and be able to share my experience that I didn't have growing up. Well, my parents were always super, super supportive of all these like random business ideas I had. I never felt like I was forced to go into a certain career, but neither of them had the experience or kind of like the viewpoint to support me or guide me. But I'm privileged now that I'll be able to give that to my kids if that's what they would like to do.
I love that. I love that. And I'm the same. Like, I didn't actually go, I didn't actually go to university. So I didn't have that traditional education to kind of fall back on to go through anything. And because I've been able to build a successful business, I have a very different view on my children's education. And actually, if they want to do something for passion, because they're
Yeah.
passionate about it and they want to make money through that way, I guess we're a bit more open to that, aren't we?
Yeah. And I think the other thing is you might also even have parents that think that you should go and follow your passion, but at the end of the day, we still need to make that profitable.
Yes.
So it can be scary for parents who don't know how to turn an idea and a passion and an interest into something that makes money. It can be scary for them to really support their kids in following their passion because they don't know how to turn it into something that makes money.
Yeah, because then it's just an expensive hobby, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's literally just draining the family finances
Yeah.
into whatever this idea is.
Yeah.
And Rebecca, you are a mum, but you're also a single mum.
I am, yeah.
So what do you find are the challenges of not only being a mum and a business owner, but being a single mum and a business owner?
Well, there are many. And at the end of the day, everyone's circumstances are completely different. So even if you were someone who was married and a mum, you might find different struggles and difficulties as opposed to someone who might be a single parent or someone who literally the other parent is absent. I'm really privileged that my kid's dad is active in their life. We've definitely had like our struggles, but I'd say for me, one of the main challenges is obviously not having that extra person there to support you. So I'm the only income in the household, and that is a lot of pressure to have on your shoulders while also juggling the childcare. It's great that I only have myself to worry about. So once the kids are in bed, I don't have another person to think about. I don't have anyone to like cook for and clean for. It's all about me.
Because there could be a third child.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
partner could be the equivalent of a third child.
I know what that's like. But I would say the difficulties that I think a lot of people might not realize who are in a relationship is that even if your partner isn't as hands-on as you are with the kids, it's just about having that extra person there. So an extra pair of eyes, an extra pair of hands, someone to, if you're all sick, to go out and get the medicine like for you, and that extra income in the household as well. So even if you're at home and you're finding it really, really hard, being a stay-at-home mum, for example, you still have that other person, that partner there to financially take care of the family. So for me, I'd say that's one of the most difficult things. But I'd also say that because I am doing it alone, it's given me just an extra level of drive and motivation. Not only that, but I think also just to change like the stereotypes of being a single parent. I wanted to make sure that my kids are financially secure and had opportunities, which obviously takes a lot of work. And that's something that's really, really important to me as well, is not feeling like I can't do these things because I'm alone. That's
It's so true. It's so true. And sometimes, when you do have a partner in the house that is bringing in another income, sometimes there is a bit of a safety net and a comfort zone with that, where you think, do you know what? It doesn't matter if I don't do well this month because they're always there. So I do 100% believe that you do have that added drive to just do really, really well. And, Rebecca, like, I know that you've got 2 boys. How different is that as a dynamic? Because I know with me, I've got a little girl. So I want her to see me as a woman doing absolutely anything that she can do so that she feels she can do the same. How is that dynamic different when you've got boys?
Yeah, so obviously it's hard for me to because I have 2 boys, I don't have a girl. So it's hard for me to kind of compare and contrast. But I would say when you have boys in general, I don't know if you're like this with your son, but I think it's different if you're married. But kind of coming back to being a single parent thing, I feel like a lot of experiences of maybe like young men that have grown up with a single parent. This is like a big generalization. Obviously, everyone's circumstances are different, but I feel like for a lot of men that have grown up with a single mom, if they see her struggling, when they become like kind of the man of the house, they feel to some sense that they take on this responsibility to support. But I think maybe women and girls don't necessarily feel that element of responsibility. So that's something I'm really conscious of with my boys, is that I want to know that I'm the parent in the household. Like while I'm not their dad, I am the parent in the household, and I always will
You're
be.
in charge.
Yeah, I always will be that. Yeah, so they don't ever feel like they have to be anything other than developing like young people. Does that make sense?
I love that.
Yeah, when I was secretly hoping that my youngest was going to be a girl. But eventually, like, I kind of came to the
Do you
idea. Now
call him
it's
sweetie?
pardon?
Do you call him sweetie, or do you
I
still
mean,
treat him like this?
I do give him little hairstyles.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah, I'm reluctant to cut his hair. So I'm not saying that's because I kind of wanted him to be a girl, but it is what it is. Yeah, I think having two boys is really fun as well, because it's kind of like that brotherly bond that they have.
Yeah.
And I had a brother myself, so I've never had that kind of like same sibling relationship. And I just think it's something really special. The other thing I would say as well is, I don't know if like you feel this, I don't know if you feel differently because you have one of each gender, but I feel like when you have the same gender children, it's kind of, people tend to compare them to one another more often.
Yeah.
And I'm very conscious of that, because my eldest, he is very reserved and calm. He's like very studious. He's just very gentle and loves numbers and math. Whereas my youngest, he's so boisterous, like loves throwing things, loves fighting. Like, he's probably like never sat down and done like a quiet activity. He's just very typical boy. And I think that just makes me really conscious that because they are brothers, people tend to compare them. But
No,
they're their
mine
own
get
people in
compared
their
as
own
well.
right. Do they? Yeah.
Even being a boy and a girl, they still get so compared.
Really?
Yeah.
But how close are they in age?
Literally like 20 months.
I think that makes a big difference as well,
Yeah.
when they're closer in age. But I think that comes with a different dynamic as well, doesn't it? When you're comparing the boy to the girl, that has its own complexities, doesn't it? And I guess it's really interesting to deal with as well.
Because even their appetites, their bills, they're so different in
Yeah.
absolutely every aspect. But then so are
Yeah.
me and my partner. Me and my husband are so different.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, obviously our kids are going to be exactly like that as well. They're going to be so, so different. So yeah, that comparison thing always, always happens. Well, then
Mm.
talking about comparisons,
Mhm.
how has your business journey been in comparison to kind of other business journeys out there? Because you are a very young business owner and you started very young.
Mm.
And yes, you're right that in your generation, that is quite normal. But, for me and my generation, that everyone would have been working in their 20s, but you've been running your business in your 20s.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
Yeah, so I think for me, my kind of like life circumstances made my route for me. So it's almost like, because where I had left my 9 to 5 and then I became pregnant, I kind of wasn't going to go back to my 9 to 5 for like a long time, because I'd already kind of left that and started my business. I think if I hadn't gotten pregnant, maybe I would have considered going back more than what I did. But now I'm obviously in a position where I absolutely love what I do. I wouldn't change my choices or anything like that. It's been absolutely amazing, and I'm made to do what I am doing. But it's interesting because a lot of my friends kind of went to uni as I did, went into their career, and now that we're like 30 or mid 30s, they have quite a lot of time in that career field. So it's interesting to see the progress they've managed to make in their career compared to my journey as a business owner. And I would say, as a business owner, in contrast to someone who might have gone down the 9 to 5 route, is that you don't always have that stability there. Sometimes it will be amazing. Sometimes you'll be like thinking, what am I doing? And you have to show up 200% all the time. You can't just, when you have like a normal job and you just show up to work, you're not feeling great, but someone's like bums are in seats, it's all fine. You don't have that.
And even if it's not, you can pull a sickie, right?
Yeah, pull a sickie. Like, you have such a nice buffer. Whereas when you're in business, you have to be switched on like a lot of the time, because everything's riding on your shoulders. And then of course, like the financial complexities of being say like you're self-employed. Obviously you could have a limited company, but say you're self-employed, the financial complexities of that when you're trying to, for example, buy a house or so many other things, also make it more challenging than if you were like in a 9 to 5 role. So it's something I've actually been, I would say, maybe like last year, I kind of felt like I was almost at a crossroads where it was like, I have to either commit to this business fully, or I have to, if I want to ever go back to building a corporate career, like I have to do it now, because and that was kind of like something I was toying with for like a while. It was really difficult. That was like an interesting like process to kind of go through.
And what brought that on? What brought that conversation? Because it's not just you.
Mhm.
I think every business owner, and anyone watching can correct us if we're wrong, but I think every business owner goes through that period where they decide it's now or never, or I can actually go back. I
Yeah.
can go back.
Yeah.
What was that for you? What did that feel like for you?
Yeah, so I think it was partially kind of like relating to what I just said about kind of comparing my journey to my friends who had a more stable career that was like going well. And then I think it was also more of like a coming of age thing, I guess, because I have just turned 30 and I felt amazing about that. But that does also come like reflection on where you're at in life. And it's kind of like a pivotal age, I think, where like you just reflect on a lot of things. And I think that's kind of what triggered me thinking, okay, which way am I going to go right now?
Mm.
But for me, as much as having a business comes with its challenges, I just wouldn't want to be doing anything else. And it's almost like one of those things where it's like you're just once you're hooked, you just know like I just could never go back.
And let's put that into a bit of context, because what does that look like for you? Because I know we all talk about how challenging business can be,
Yeah,
but let's also talk about how much freedom it gives you.
that's the
And
thing.
especially in your life, you're a single mum with 2 little kids. So what does business and having your own business allow you to do?
Yeah, so I guess firstly, like the logistics of having a child, say in school hours, that's at the most basic level hard to juggle a job in that
Yeah.
instance, let alone as a single parent that doesn't have someone that could maybe you could split, pickups and things like that. That is really challenging. Then the other thing is obviously, which that you speak a lot about, being able to go and show up for your kids when they need you to. So I went on like a school trip with my son. I go to all his nativities. Without having to even, run it past anybody. Like I don't even have to give it a second thought. I can do whatever I want with my day. Or, if one of the kids has been having like a rough week or they're not very well, I can choose to do things that fill me up. So that is kind of what it looks like in terms of like the flexibility for me. And I think that it's also, for me, I like thrive on being challenged. So as much as it obviously has the difficulties, I know that that's what fuels me in life. That's
Mm.
what inspires me, and that's what kind of I always have this drive to be challenged. And I just felt like I wasn't experiencing that in the same sense when I was in my corporate role, I guess.
Yeah. And Rebecca, how has your network changed since you've had your own business?
Yeah. Oh, so do you know what? This is one of the things that I say to my friends who was it my friend? I can't remember who I was saying this to, but one of the benefits of obviously having a business is that over time you grow up this amazing, valuable network that is completely different, offers completely different opportunities to if you had stayed like in the same role over years. Because while you do build up, your like industry connections and things like that, it's not in the same capacity as this amazing flexible network that you build up over time when you have a business. So I have like yourself, for example, and just like so many other amazing business owners that I can call on for advice in so many different areas, for support, and I can support them and vice versa. And I think that's like so magical. I think as well, I think as with this like past year, I don't know if you've kind of felt the same, but I know in a lot of businesses, people have found things have gone like a little bit quieter with the cost of living crisis and things like that. People are cutting back. I work a lot in the beauty industry, and they've noticed a lot of cutbacks and things like that with people spending money with them. And it's in these kind of difficult times when your network really is your net worth, because it's not a
Yes.
cliche saying, but it's so true. And these are the times when you realize that that is the case. Um, I think with connections in your network, it's like seeds that you plant years ago, they kind of show up in years to come,
Yes,
just when you
yes,
need them.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think one of the magical things I found, now, I don't know if anybody knows, but Rebecca and I, we've known each other since 2020. So we've been clients of each other actually
Mhm,
since
mhm.
2020. You've been doing all my branding. I've supported you with marketing. We only met this year for the
Yeah.
first time.
But
We
it
only
felt
met
like
this
we'd
year.
met before. But yeah, it was
Yeah,
only
it did feel like that, but we never had. We only met in person this year. And
yeah.
I think it's only the business industry that is so forgiving, that allows you to have this online relationship,
Mhm,
which is a true friendship,
mhm.
and not be able to meet each other for years and years and years. And then when you do meet each other, it's like you've always been friends. Whereas
Yeah.
in real life or in the outside of business world, that you can't maintain a relationship like that. If you
Mhm.
don't meet someone often enough, you can't just maintain like this online or, on social media relationship. Whereas in business you can, which is so
Yeah.
magical.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that as well. I think it just feels like that's again just the power of social media. However
Yeah.
you feel about social media, you can't deny that it does offer so many opportunities to build those connections, build those friendships, and that network is so valuable.
It really, really is. It's so amazing. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to see each other even more in
Yeah.
person as time goes on. So, Rebecca, why design? Why design?
Okay, so this is another, there's lots of stories around this. So I've always been really creative. I've always been into art and things like that. But almost like when I was at school, I'd be amazing at art. Be amazing at drawing, one of those like competitions and like things like that with my drawing. But there was something about the artistic sort of airy fairy like nature that I didn't ever sit right with me. Like I always felt so uncomfortable that there wasn't like a logical solution to what I was doing. Like it would really frustrate me. Um, and now I think when I compare that to the work that I do now, it definitely has a creative and visual aspect to it. My visual eye, I guess, is what people are paying me for my expertise for, because things I can do really easily, other people don't quite have the eye for. But when you're looking at designing for business, you're also problem solving as well. So you're looking at
Mm.
connecting like an audience or a type of person and creating a design that's going to connect with them, or thinking about a business's goals and thinking about, okay, how can we create something that's going to support those goals? And I love kind of like that, for me, is the perfect combination of the two. So another kind of like side story to how I actually got into design is I studied business at university and was really into branding and marketing modules there. And I actually wanted to, my dream job would have been to go into like the visual design department for like Estee Lauder or some sort of big cosmetics brand. That was my dream job. Um, and I tried to get a placement there, but wasn't able to. So I kind of just like put that on the back burner. But it's always like design and graphic design and product design has always been one of like these things I would have loved to have done. But I think because I thought I didn't study graphic design at university, I thought it would never happen. Again, coming back to that mindset where it's like, okay, you have to study and then you're going to get a job and then that's what you'll do. So I'm actually self-taught in terms of design. Yeah.
Wow.
But how I actually got into kind of doing that as my job is that when I had my hair products line, I designed all the packaging, the branding for that, and people would love the hair oils. They'd also say, "Oh my god, I love the packaging. Who designed it for you? Who did the website? Who did A, B, and C?" And then I would just be like, "Oh, it was just me." Yeah, and then just something clicked, and I just thought, you know what? I actually love doing the design for this, and growing this brand more than I do making the hair oils. So this was when I was pregnant, and I kind of just decided I'm going to take on a few, reach out to people, see if I can work for them for free, just see if I like it, see if I'm any good at it. And yeah, haven't looked back since then.
Wow, I love that. And do you know what? You're the second conversation that I've had that
Mm.
has built a business without getting this qualifications. So
Yeah.
one thing I'd love to know is your perspective on how you dealt with
Mm.
that mindset shift of, actually, I'm good enough to turn this into a business.
Yeah. So for one, I've dealt with like a lot of frustration because I am making like more money now not using my degree than using the degree that I paid so much money
Yes.
for.
Yes.
So for one, it's kind of annoying. But also two, I think anyone that goes, if you want to be successful in business, you have to um, get over the idea that you're not good enough. Like that is a
Mm.
fundamental thing, because even if you've been in business for years and you've very much proved that you are good enough, you're still going to get those feelings that you have to learn to like push past. So I think I've always had that ability to kind of like push past the idea of not being good enough. I've always been someone that just does
Mm.
something instead of like worrying about it. I would just do it. So like for example, I I was working like at the Body Shop while I was at uni, and I was a color coach, which is basically someone who's in charge of like the sales and the makeup department of the store. So we I'm like not a trained makeup artist. They literally train us for like a couple hours to put on a basic makeup. But we got off this opportunity to basically go and do the makeup for this like big fashion show, like in one of the shopping malls. And I really didn't know if I could do it or not, but I just said, yeah, like I'll do it. And just went for it. And that's kind of just how I have always been.
Mm.
So I think there's something to be said. I wouldn't say anyone can just say they are qualified to do something just by saying that they are that thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you can
Yes.
say you're capable of being a coach if you don't know that you are and you haven't had any training or any practice. But I think that quite often practicing on the job is more valuable than just having studied a course
Mm.
and then relying on that qualification. Like I know a lot of graphic designers, for example, who have gone to uni to study graphic design, but when it comes to actually applying that into working with clients and fulfilling their brief and things like that, they really struggle. And a lot of the time, I think being good at a role comes from experience of doing that role, not just from qualifications. But personally, I've never had any come up against any kind of issues where people might have been like, you don't have a graphic design degree, so I'm not paying you to do that. I've never had that experience where
Yeah.
anyone even mention it. Yeah, I think like in the online space now, a lot of people just want what they want. So it's the same
And I
with
guess your work speaks for itself now, doesn't it?
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, my work
Irrelevant of any
now, yeah,
qualification.
like a lot of my clients, I've worked with loads of big clients now. A lot of my clients have been like in Vogue and like set up in like John Lewis and loads of like amazing things I would never have thought I would have achieved before. And when I
Yeah.
look back to them, I'm like, wow, like I've actually done that from nothing. Um, so it speaks for itself. But even that being said, I still always like have doubts and wish that I could do better.
And I guess we'll always have that, right? Because even as mums, we have that as mums. We can always be a better mum. We can always be a
Mhm.
better parent. We can always be, and that's just us striving to be the absolute best that we can be in anything that we kind of do.
Yeah.
And I guess just going back a little bit on your your expertise and knowing that even though you don't have qualifications, there's a flair, there's some sort of flair, there's an internal voice or something that
Mm,
believes in you and thinks
mhm.
you can absolutely do this. You don't need half that stuff. And I
Yeah,
guess somebody like you just listens to that voice
yeah,
rather than the other one that says, no, you need a qualification, you need all of these kind of things.
yeah, yeah. I think also sort of like having a lot of years doing what you're doing makes you feel more secure and you
Mm.
realize the value that you actually bring, because I know that for my whole life, I've been someone that's paid attention to visual details, or like when I'm out and about in the shops, I pay attention to the packaging trends and things like that. That's naturally something that I do. And I know for a fact I've been doing that for decades. And that's what people are paying me for, because there are other people that wouldn't have been paying attention to those things, or, don't have an interest in those things. And that's kind of like the expertise that people are paying me for.
Yeah, and there's some people that can take what they see and interpret it and
Mhm.
integrate it into a work of art. There's other people that will just look at it and it'll mean nothing to them. So it
Yeah.
is that skill of being able to interpret something and then translate that into a design for another business owner,
Yeah.
which you can't get taught that, right?
Yeah, yeah, I don't think that you can. I think the other thing about design in terms of business as well and branding is that there's like a psychological element to it where you have to be someone that understands people really well. And also when you're kind of a business owner who has a branding business, you need to be able to understand your clients' needs, and people communicate in different ways. So you need to be able to understand what someone might be saying versus like what they actually mean and what they want. So there's a very much like personable element to it that I think maybe a lot of people who are in the artistic field or the design field don't always have that kind of like element of like personability to how they interact with people and that psychological understanding.
Yeah, it's so important. And again, this is stuff you're not taught.
Yeah.
It's that stuff that you either build up as you're going along, or it's in you already. You can't get taught that stuff. So talking of teachings, and what was your degree in? What did you actually study?
Yeah, so I did business management, so it wasn't too far off. I had a branding module and like a marketing module, and that's kind of what I studied. Yeah, I always knew that I wanted to do business. In hindsight, I probably wouldn't have gone. If I was going to say like advise my kids now, I would say unless you want to be like a doctor or a lawyer or something. Yeah, I just don't think that it's worth it because there's so many amazing ways you can educate yourself nowadays. But obviously it's the decision I made, and can't really regret things. But business management I studied.
Wow, and especially with the cost of education now, right?
Were
you the generation that paid?
So I was the last year to have like £3,500 a year fees. The next year for me was £9,000 a year. Yeah.
It's £9,000 a year now to go to university.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So yes, I'm the generation that didn't pay.
Yeah.
We didn't have to pay for our education. So 100%, if you're investing £9,000 a year over 3 years, that's what, £27,000?
It's crazy, especially bearing in mind that's supposed to be full-time study. So technically,
wow,
it wouldn't really be like
a lot of
working at the
money.
same time. It's so much money. And that's why I'm not at all like someone that's against formal education. I think it's amazing, especially when you're younger, when you don't really know what you want to do. I feel like it's better to be in education than nothing. But I just think it's the price is just crazy.
Wow. So 27K over 3 years. Oh my goodness. So 27K over 3 years. Imagine if you invested that in courses and stuff like that, you could probably, generate a lot more. So 100%, I think it's really about being logical about what you want to do and not just following the route that everyone else is following. I remember when I was, I didn't go to university, my friends did, but because university was so accessible then and everyone went, it was actually harder to get a job afterwards.
Yeah, because everyone's free.
Yeah, whereas I started working in marketing and I was already like a manager by the time, a marketing manager by the time they finished university, and they had to start at the bottom again.
Yeah.
So even with their degrees, even with all of their debt, they had to literally start at the bottom again. So yeah, there's something about just being really, really clever about where you put your money and where you invest and where you envision that future going.
Yeah. And your time as well, not just money, but also your time. Yeah.
100%. So, oh, wow. Okay. I'm just so surprised at that cost. Like that's literally just thrown me completely. So you done your degree in business and marketing, and then you started a beauty business with your hair products.
Yeah. So
how did that come about?
Yeah. So, well, I did do like 3 years in like my corporate marketing job, like straight after, went straight into that. But in terms of like my first proper money-making business, it was a hair oils brand. So this was kind of like in the period of time where the kind of like natural hair movement came about.
Yes.
Do you remember? And like literally everyone was like just wearing their hair curly or like in its natural state.
Like people stopped dyeing their hair, they stopped using straighteners.
And I still have so many people in my audience now that literally have been with me since, because my Sugar Brand page used to be my hair oils page. So I have loads of people who followed me.
So do you still have that business?
No, I sold it to a online retailer. I
Oh.
don't expect it's still there anymore because they're all natural hair oils that obviously kind of like expired over time. But when I kind of decided that I didn't want to do it anymore, I sold it to one of the retailers that was like stocking us. And yeah, so that was kind of like my first taste of growing a business. But while I was doing that, I was also doing modeling as well. And it was kind of like when I was modeling, I would meet so many different people who were freelancing and who had their own business because I was working with like photographers and videographers and makeup artists and hairstylists. And I absolutely love like how passionate they were about what they were doing. Like it really inspired me so much, and it kind of made me feel like I wanted to find my thing. Like a lot of my friends would like recall these memories when I used to have these conversations with them and say like, I just don't know what my thing is. I just need to find my thing. And like and I also like loved being in that I loved like the beauty space, so like the hairstyle. I'm quite like a low-key minimal person, but I just loved like that industry. So I wanted to be a part of that, but I knew I didn't want to be a makeup artist or a hairstylist. So I had my hair oils brand, and I guess it's kind of like what led me down the road of working mainly within the beauty industry with sugar brands. And yeah, so I think the thing I would say about the experience with the hair oil brand, and I guess a lot of people might find this useful, is that at first, I think when you have a business idea, you love the idea of it, but the day-to-day actions that you need to take to grow that business look very different for different types of businesses. And you have to kind of understand how passionately you feel about each of those things. So like with a physical based products business, the reality is a lot of the time, if you want to grow to a certain level, you're going to have some sort of motivation, if not an interest, to sort out logistics, maybe warehousing, and like not all the time, there's other options now.
All the annoying things, right, that you have to do.
Yeah, going to the post office. If you don't want to go to the post office, you have to organize something else. And dealing with, you know, things getting lost in the post, and all of these things come as part and parcel of having a physical products business. And that was kind of the experience for me, is that as much as I loved having the brand and growing the brand and the marketing, I didn't love all the other stuff that came with it. And that's kind of like what drove me to eventually sell the business.
And I remember I dabbled in product, in having a product in my business. And oh my God, the thing that annoyed me the most was storing the product.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I have to keep it in my office until it gets sold, unless I invest in storage solutions. And that was the end of that journey.
Yeah. You don't realize how much you don't like these things until you actually.
I know. And exactly that. And I was like, oh my God, seeing that stuff sat in the office every single day was enough for me to just want to give it away to everybody for free. I was like, I don't want to do this.
What product was it that you had?
Can we not talk about it?
No,
we won't talk about it. I started doing these business boxes.
Yeah.
So I worked with a lot of suppliers, small suppliers, and built up this amazing business box, which was so amazing. It had lots of different things in them, like these essential oils to support you with confidence and stuff like that. So they were all very different. But which numbnut had to store all that stuff? Me. And I was just like, no way. So even though it worked really well, and you know, I sold lots of these boxes, they were brilliant. I was like, can I do this now permanently? And I was like, no. For me, selling a service was so much easier than selling an actual product. So that was the end of that dream. That short-lived dream. So Rebecca, honestly, it's been such an amazing conversation, and I've learned so much as well, even though I've known you for so many years. But what have you got planned for the future now? What is the future for you, for your business, for your family? What do you see that looking like?
Yeah, so it's actually funny because I'm going through an interesting phase in my business where I feel like I've almost come full circle. So having my business for 6 years now, I've learned so much, tried so many different things, worked in so many different ways. And I feel like I've got a really good idea of how I like to work. And it's kind of different to a lot of the things I've been trying out. And I think the reason for that is that when I was trying new things out, I was doing it based on like what was sort of trending in the industry at the time.
Yes.
So not in terms of design style, but like this is how you should be working.
Generally,
You should be charging. Da, 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 da. There's always a trend that's going around, and in the graphic design field, like I was really picking up on the fact that like you should take on like a handful of like big clients, and like that's how you're going to like work. And that I loved that at first. I thought this is like amazing, because I think before I was charging like when I was doing like smaller projects, I wasn't charging enough for the smaller projects. So I kind of thought in contrast, okay, I'm going to do a few bigger projects and that's going to be great. And it worked well. But basically, I'm kind of like gone full circle to this year. I'm really pushing and focusing on doing my hourly sessions with my clients. So breaking like my time up into hourly sessions allows me to serve more people in a way that I enjoy, because I love one-on-one done for you stuff. Like it just fulfills me so much more than like the more passive stuff or group things. I just know that I love that one-on-one time with my clients, and to be able to really focus on their needs and what they want. I love to give that part of myself to them. So this year I'm really focusing on working in that sort of space. So I do like people can book in just for 1 hour with me to work on like maybe revising a Canva design they've made for themselves, or they can book in like for lots of hours and we can work on a bigger project. There might be like packaging design or like a logo design and things like that. But this is kind of like how I feel really excited about working this year and just being able to serve more people, because there's been a period of time where I've only worked with like 2 clients a month because I've been only booking higher ticket projects. So this year I'm excited to go back to serving loads and loads of people, and that's kind of like my focus for this year. The other exciting thing that I'm doing this year is I am actually selling semi-custom packages, because I want to start growing more of a passive stream to my business, and again being able to serve like more people. So that's something I've been kind of sat on for years, and I haven't really wanted to do it because of how I feel about serving people one-to-one, and that's what I love doing. But I've really like kind of poured my heart and soul into creating like a really high quality product that I'm excited for people to have, and that's kind of made me feel a bit more like excited about being more passive. So yeah, those are the 2 main things that kind of I have going on in the workspace like 2024.
I love that. And do you know what? It's really important to really lean into what you love and what you enjoy, and also being fluid enough to chop and change and do things differently. And I think, Rebecca, you and I've been in business coming up to 6 years actually, and you've been in business for 6 years. I'm sure what you're doing now is so different to what you were doing when you first started out in business.
So different.
Right. And it's all about just being able to be fluid, that you allow yourself to do things a little bit differently if they need to be done.
Yeah. And just like listening to yourself and how you feel about how you're showing up as well, because there's so much advice out there, but at the end of the day, all that matters is what's working for you and your business, and you just like kind of take things from here and there and just make things work for you.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And if anybody did want to get a hold of you, if anybody did want to get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to do it?
Yeah, so you can reach out to me on Instagram, which is @sugarbranded, or drop me an email, rebecca@sugarbranded.com. But yeah, my DMs are always open if anyone has any questions or wants to chat.
Love it. Thank you. And one last question, because I've got it written here, so I really want to ask it. It's Rebecca, right? Not Rachel.
Rebecca, yeah.
What is this thing with Rachel? Why do people call you Rachel?
Do you know what it is? It's literally since I was in primary school, people have called me Rachel by mistake. It's the weirdest thing, and it literally happens all the time. Even if I email someone and say sign off with my name, they'll reply saying like, "Hi Rachel." Even like the other day, because I'm buying a house at the moment, so I went to go and view this house. I literally had the offer accepted, literally was organising the survey, and the estate agent called my mortgage advisor and said, have you spoken to Rachel like recently? And he was like, who's Rachel? Referring to me. Another like funny experience was I was out with like my ex-partner. This is like when I was like, I don't know, early 20s, and I just met his friends for the first time, and he introduced me as Rachel.
As a joke?
No, like seriously called me Rachel.
But Everybody knew your name was Rebecca, right?
Well, I hope so. Yeah, it was so awkward.
That is so
It was so
funny.
awkward. It would have been more awkward if it hadn't been happening to me my whole life.
Yes.
But I'd love to hear
Who's
from other
Rachel? And you're like,
Rebeccas.
I know who Rachel is.
Yeah, I wonder if other Rebeccas also have the same experience. I don't know.
So
Really
if you
strange.
are a Rebecca and you're watching this,
Yeah,
please
please
let us
DM us. I
know
don't feel so alone.
if you also get called Rachel. And the funny thing is, I am going to be interviewing another Rebecca shortly. So I am going to ask her whether she also gets called Rachel. That's just the weirdest thing. And I'd had it written down here because I'm like, how weird is that?
Yeah, you just needed to know. Yeah, I've had some
Yeah.
weird experiences with that. But yeah, one of the funniest things was obviously being introduced by my boyfriend as Rachel.
As Rachel. That is so funny. And it's not, you know, apart from the R,
It's not that
it doesn't even
similar.
sound similar.
Yeah, strange.
Which is really, really weird. So I
Yeah.
don't know about that one. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with us. Thank you for being so open, so honest with everything that we have asked you today. It's been absolutely incredible. It's just been so good to find out more about you as well and find out more about your really, really inspiring business journey and to also see a bit of that generational difference as well, which has been really amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
You're so welcome. You are so welcome. And thank you to everybody who's watched this conversation. Do reach out to Rachel, Rebecca. Do reach out to Rebecca if you want to connect with her or ask her anything, or obviously find out more about any of her services, which sound absolutely incredible. So thank you all so much.